Well, welcome to Cerebral Sparkles.
Welcome.
Okay, so you ever leave a conversation feeling drained or unexpectedly energized? That's social energy. Welcome to Cerebral Sparkles, where mental energy meet. Today we're unpacking how social wellness shapes your mood, mindset, and sense of self. I love it every time. I love it. All right, so we always like to start off our little sesh with giving each other compliments, just because I feel like we feel like it sets the tone, and so I'll begin with you.
Oh,
Okay, so Jody, first of all, how are you today?
great. I just love how energized I feel when we're together because there's just so much resonance and we love what we're doing and what we get to share.
I know it's
Yeah.
a cute little love fest. But
Yeah.
okay, so let's see. My compliment to you this week is I just really value your work ethic. I value your ability to be able to bridge gaps. Like, you can see the things that need to be done and you can just do them, and I never have to, like, I don't know. I just appreciate the way that you show up with the integrity that you show up with. I just don't find that all that often, and just like your ability to just, like, I don't know, I feel like we match frequencies so well, so it just creates this space where I can be, like, truly myself, and I just find that to be rare, and so I just want you to know how special that is to me. So thank you for existing.
Oh, thank you. That feels so good. Um, Thank you. I love how clearly you communicate to where I feel so heard and understood, and I know exactly what you need, where you're at. That it's direct, it's kind, and it's loving, and there's just no question. Like, talk about clear energy field. I mean, exactly what we're going to talk about. That you really demonstrate and you model that social awareness of being a clear, energetic communicator, to where yeah, the message just gets through, and then I feel so heard that sometimes in conversation people are listening, but they're looking for the next thing they want to say, where you're actually present with the conversation and you're processing it and thinking about it and really wanting to understand it from my perspective, that I can feel you seeing it from these different angles to integrate and understand a different way that I don't know that I've ever really just felt so seen and heard in a conversation, and that feels so empowering and so exciting to be around, and so uplifting. So.
Oh my gosh, thank you. And by you saying that, I feel seen.
Yay!
So that's beautiful. And see how good this is? That's
Mhm.
love the tone. Okay, so this is what we're doing today. We're talking about social wellness. So here's a little thing, just get us on the same page, right? So social wellness is the dimension of mental health that focuses on the quality of our relationships and how we show up in them, right? So how we connect, communicate, give, receive, and maintain boundaries. It's all about feeling supported, understood, and authentic in our actions. But there's also an energetic side to every social experience. So conversations aren't just verbal, right? They're energetic exchanges. So some interactions recharge us, while others quietly drain us. This is why this conversation matters. So in this episode, we're going to be blending the mental health perspective with quantum energy work to explore how your energy, self-worth, and social habits all influence all of them, each other. And so, because when you start tuning into both your emotional awareness and your energetic presence, your relationships get healthier and your boundaries get clearer and your social experiences feel way more aligned. So this is why we're talking about this kind of stuff. And so, okay, so I guess I'll just start with, I'm going to talk about how, in terms of, like, social wellness and just, like, how compliments affect how compliments affect you emotionally, right? So that this is, like, a big reason, like, in social wellness, I don't know about you, but I tend to want to isolate a lot. Like, if I'm trying to, like, figure things out, I sometimes want to figure things out by myself. Like, I don't necessarily want to do it in front of other people. And although that can be healthy, the idea is that it also can be healthy to be able to be around people but the right people, right? So like
Right.
recognizing like the energy exchanges.
Resonance.
Yes. And so we're going to definitely talk about like paying attention like in an energetic way, like who gives you energy, who drains your energy, what like people, places, and things. They all do the same thing. And so when you kind of have a better understanding of like how spaces and people are affecting your well-being, you're going to understand too like yourself more in terms of just like how you interact, how you interpret what people say.
I appreciate that because the way that we've been taught is that communication is about words, and there's so much more that's happening than our words. It's how we're saying them, it's the emotion underneath them, and it's the energy. And so really understanding how our energy moves through us and how it moves through each other is just going to create so much more accountability and awareness. It's, you know, we focus on our physical hygiene, right? Like we think about, you know, if I wash my clothes or how I'm smelling.
Yeah.
And yet what about our energetic hygiene? Are we showing up with, you know, carrying a lot of extra stuff that is going to be, you know, picked up by another person that's interacting with us? That if we think about how we're showing up, that's going to affect our interaction and our message.
Yes, and let's just cut to the chase immediately. Social awareness, self-awareness. Let's just put this out there. A lot of people around here are walking around saying that they're self-aware. Okay, self-awareness is two different parts, and I notice personally that people tend to be really great in one aspect of self-awareness, and not both aspects. So that means that you're actually not aware, and so people are missing. So the two aspects from a mental health perspective is how you perceive the world, but then how people are perceiving you. And I just want to give two examples just so we're on the same page of like questions so you can see the difference in mentality with both, right? So how you perceive others would be questions like, what emotions do I sense in others before they express them verbally? Right? How does my mood influence the way I interpret somebody else's behavior, right? This is all how you perceive the world, right? Now, how others perceive you, the other side of the coin, would be, what does my body language communicate before I even speak, right? Like, you got, what is it? RBG, resting B face, RBF.
Yeah.
And how do people typically react to me in new social settings? Like, you know, how are you showing up when you walk in the room? Are you like a little shy or something? Or do people immediately want to walk over to you and start talking to you and stuff? So these are like kind of like a good place to start. Like if you're going to be saying, oh, I'm self-aware, it really has to be like both, like both
to know
ways.
that we're communicating with so much more than our words.
That's what it is. You know, just even thinking about like, let's ask you that question. So, Jody, what does your body language communicate to people, do you think, before you even speak?
Ooh, so, and I think about this. I think about my energy and whether I'm open or closed. And part of that, you know, is whether we're facing somebody, how we're making eye contact. And so I think, you know, even with gestures is openness, because on an energetic level, things are either flowing or they're not flowing.
Yeah.
Right? If we're going to look at that way, that things are in resonance or there's dissonance. And so if you look at kind of one or the other, then I'd like to think that as I'm communicating to people, that I'm moving energy towards them and I'm connecting, that I'm with the intention of connecting, that's what they're going to feel. And that this is what I've actually noticed and is really quite surprising, is how good it can feel to hear somebody tell you something that you don't want to hear when it's coming from a place of them being open and honoring themselves. That it's creating a connection. That even though the information, and there we might hold back from sharing something that we don't think they want to hear, and yet what we all really want is connection.
Right? Social connection, right? And I think that's such a beautiful thing to say. Like sometimes, you know, you're in a partnership, a friendship, or whatever, and you don't want to offend them, but they're definitely doing something that is maybe disconnecting you within the connection. But if you never say anything for fear of hurting their feelings, then that relationship's going to keep getting more and more disconnected versus being able to like repair or like being able to say something with love and bring it to the surface and
Right.
and allowing space for intimate connection, whether or not it's friend, right? Because
Right.
then you can work through it together, and there's something about like honesty, you know?
Well, looking at the vibrational scale, as we've talked about energy, that each emotion has a vibration, and then the higher vibration, the more that's flowing, the more openness and accessibility there is. Well, authenticity is the highest vibration.
It is.
And
Love is right underneath it. And sometimes people think love is the highest one, and don't get me wrong, it's super high, but it's authenticity.
yeah, and I think part of that is the ability to connect, because when we know and we understand, I mean, let's really when it comes down to it, we feel comfortable and safe with people that we understand.
Yeah.
And we know what to expect, we know what our parameters are.
Mm-hmm.
When you're having to guess whether someone's communicating that something that's, whether it's accurate or not, that cognitive dissonance, and I think when we're unsure in ourselves and when we're protecting closed, then they've got to work a little bit harder to try to hear our message and understand, because there's not the same openness to a connection. So that authenticity, I mean, how good does it feel? And I even had this conversation with my 13-year-old. He's like, you know what being cool is? Everybody wants to be cool. The way you be cool is you just know that you're cool, and it's you're comfortable with who you are, and you don't care. Like, that's the ironic thing, is you don't care what other people think, and then people care what you think.
Yeah. The more you don't, I know, this world, the more you don't care, the more people do care.
Yeah, and from an energetic level, it's that authenticity. How good does it feel to be around somebody that is just being who they are?
Yes.
Right?
Yeah. I mean, I was going to even say, so bringing it to the compliments, right? So there's a couple things that I've noticed like that happen with compliments. So first of all, like why we incorporate it into our sessions and why we lead with it, because you could just see even like the fact that like what we were saying to each other, like Jody's compliment to me made me feel seen. Like it made me understand from the out the gate that she sees me in the way that I would like to be received. And so now what that also does is that creates this kind of connection that we have. And so now we're going to be able to speak to each other in this kind of like loving space, because we already know that we have the ability to see each other and we appreciate it. You know, and so and that kind of goes with the idea of energetic exchanges like between people. So every time you interact with someone, it's an energetic exchange. So it's really important to like really pay attention to like your social battery, like what things give you energy and what doesn't. And so in a compliment form, like, so you know, I noticed that compliments can be really awkward. You know, either you deflect it, you don't believe it, you know, and really I feel like we should be looking at compliments as if they're gifts from the other person. It's a way for a person to give love and like and make that person know that they see them. And and you know what I've noticed is a lot of people that are closed off to compliments, or they get really awkward with compliments, it's usually the people that want love the most. And just in the simple fact that if you are rejecting these little bits of love that people are trying to give you, but then you still feel empty, it's like being able to receive a compliment and believe it can be really powerful, because you're essentially opening yourself up to be able to receive love. And so that could be a good practice if, like, you know, you're feeling lonely, you're feeling not seen, not heard, not loved. Pay attention to the next time someone gives you a compliment and maybe just like receive it.
Yeah, it's a great way to gauge what your energy capacity is. If we're going to talk about resonance and dissonance, resonance is that we have an openness, a similar frequency. So if this is familiar to us and I'm flowing it and I'm living in this, I'm resonant with it. So if there's dissonance, if someone's giving you a compliment and you're feeling it kind of hitting against this block and it's not resonating you, then the message here is, I'm not open to this, and then I can adjust myself. That so much of what we feel, because the truth is, how we feel is really reflective of what we believe and what we're willing to flow into our field. And oftentimes when we're not feeling something, there's a block, and we're literally not able to access that energy for what we need. And then recognizing, if we want to receive that from other people, we have to have resonance. We have to have the ability to receive it. We have to have an openness and a belief.
Yeah.
And so what a great awareness that discomfort, you know, we've talked about this with emotions, is such a great tool to see what we're in resonance, what our energy can connect to, and what it's not connecting to.
Yeah.
And that the amazing thing is we continue to seek this from other people. It doesn't feel fulfilling because we don't have a way. It's like having this energy leak. It's just flowing through. It's not able to fill us up because we haven't built the ability to receive that. And so what a wonderful practice of compliment. And it is an energy exchange. It has currency. And I think seeing value in the way that we interact in this, and to really acknowledge that we have a right within our social interactions to support our energy, to gravitate to where there is resonance and there's alignment, and that relationships can be nourishing and can be uplifting. And it's okay to step back from something that is draining you or isn't supporting in that way, that it doesn't have to be personal. If there's not an openness to connection, there's just not an openness to connection.
Yeah, and sometimes, you know, like we talk about, like the opening question, right, is like, have you ever just been in a conversation, like you left it and you just feel exhausted, like you just want to like go to bed? But then other ones, like when we were talking about emotional wellness, you know, one of my favorite moments with you is like, the first time we hung out, I went and ran 6 miles afterwards. So like that was unexpected. Like she gave me energy just by me being in proximity to her. And so that's what we're looking for, because sometimes, you know, social wellness can be like a really hard sell, especially if you're already drained, you feel down, the last thing that you want to do is go hang out with people. But I tell you what, if you have the right people and you're like taking inventory, like I suggest that now, like just think about the people that are in your orbit currently that you spend a lot of time with, whether or not it's on the phone, whether or not it's like you hanging out in real life. Take inventory. Like, how do you feel when you get off the phone with them? How do you feel when you're leave the presence of them? You know, because that's residue. You know, that is an energetic like connection that doesn't just go away because you've left the room with that other person. That's going to affect you. And you know, and it's the same thing, like how are people talking to you? Like, how are people communicating to you? Does it make you feel good? Does it make you feel small? Like, these are all things, because that's an energy exchange, right? Because if someone is making you feel less than, they're obviously going to be draining your energy. And so, like, you don't want to be hanging out with them when you're already super depleted. You want to be, like, have those people that you know that you go to, that you don't necessarily have to, like, you know, vent or complain all the time, but you know that you could just be around and it will actually be filling up your cup instead of like taking you out even more. And so those are the things to pay attention to when you're thinking about, well, do I want to go hang out with that person?
Yeah.
Because it is healthy to be able to get that energy exchange if it's positive, if you're having a bad day, you know?
Right, right. It, you know, understanding how energy works, really, I feel like it helps give us permission. The reality, you know, we're taught that it's about performance, right? If I'm doing that, what am I doing for you? But when it comes down to whether we like someone or not, or someone likes us, it's not about what we do, it's about how someone makes us feel. It's how we're feeling around them. And so I think we can justify things in a lot of ways of, but they do this and they do that. Yet if we're feeling drained at the end of the day,
and every day, that takes a toll on you.
Yeah, the priority really is our energy, because we have this certain container capacity of energy to work with. And to give, it's so self-loving to decide that I'm going to have some precision and I'm going to put my energy in places where it can be received and it can be beneficial, and that this is where I want to put my energy. Because the reality is, we're saying we're always interacting with our energy, and it's this law of nature, right? That we have this energy field that is permeable, and if we're always connected, we're always interacting, we're always communicating, nature is always tending towards synchronicity. If we think about, like, if you have water, then things are going to flow, and it's always reaching equilibrium, right? And so the synchronicity happens and things entrain, and how it works of what entrains to what is the stronger signal. Like, for example, I love this example that if you have all these metronomes that are moving at a different speed, eventually they all sync up. The things in nature sync up.
Women in their cycles.
Women
You
sync
hang
up.
out too much. We're all cycling at the same time.
And it's not something that we can control or we can avoid. This is a natural process, and that part of that is taking off this idea that it's personal, that this is a natural process. And the way these things sync up, the way that our energy field works, is that the dominant energy is, they're like the tuning fork. Then the weaker energy is going to entrain to the dominant energy. And that's why if you're strong in your field and you're in this level of positivity, you can't help but uplift the people around you, are going to elevate to that frequency, and they're going to experience more energy, and they're not taking your energy. They are entraining to your resonance, right? As things vibrate higher, so it's bringing up this high resonance. It's like different instruments. So if I were to play a tuning fork and I have another tuning fork that's close enough to it, that's going to start vibrating, even though you're only hitting this one tuning fork, because they have a next proximity. They're both going to vibrate together. And it's so wonderful to recognize, because if we are prioritizing, instead of thinking, instead of okay, if someone is in an emotional state, instead of trying to connect to them and feeding that and amplifying that, if we can stay grounded in what we're feeling and give them hope and be a positive force and first connection, so seeing each other when we were complimenting and hearing and understanding each other, that's us
Syncing up.
That is us syncing up into resonance. And once we're in resonance, this is co-regulation, then we can elevate together. And that's that power around being around people that are amplifying that energy of support, that we might still be sharing what we're doing, but when we're not dwelling in it.
Well, so that's the thing, dwelling. Like, I know we've all been in situations where, someone's going through a crisis and they need to talk it out and stuff. I would like to just say right here, because this is something that I don't know whether or not a lot of people have, maybe an awareness about. So I ask everybody, do you know the difference between complaining and venting? Right? Okay, so I'm going to tell you, because there is a difference. Venting, you're expressing yourself so you can work through it, and you are de-escalating yourself. If you are complaining, then what you're doing is you're not problem solving, you're just rehashing, and so most of the time you'll actually get more mad. So the idea to pay attention to know whether or not you're complaining versus venting is, am I more mad after we talked about it? Or am I de-escalated a bit? Because I'm going to tell you, you can't keep, okay, so let's talk about this. Performance, and okay, so I actually had a question in here. Let's see, how did I phrase it? But it was like social performance, essentially. Oh, here we go. What's the difference between authentic presence and performative presence in social settings? What do you think the difference is?
Ooh, that's really great. I think looking at it from an energetic perspective, that performance, instead of being grounded in what is, you're seeking. And that's taking your energy outside of yourself to try to change an outcome from what it is, where authentic presence is in support of flow of that energy that is. And the performance, because in authenticity, you're not connected to yourself, that's going to be draining. Once you've lost yourself, we can really recharge in an authentic way when we're connected to ourselves. Just like, plants out in the sun, just, roots, trees need roots to where this energy can flow. We need to be connected. So performance is really a way to kind of manipulate an outcome by taking energy, right, from what's outside of us.
This is wise.
Instead of being in our own energy and then amplifying what exists from that perspective.
Yes. From a mental health perspective, right? Presence, the different authentic presence, you're in the present moment. Period. You're in the present moment, you're paying attention.
You're connected to what is.
Yeah, you're connected to what is. And then performance, for me, it is all the talking with no action. So therefore, there's no follow through. So it's like you just talk about it, but then you don't change it. So that's performance. You're just going through the motions, but you're not actually acting on it. And that can be draining. Imagine that you're just having that same conversation time and time again, and a person doesn't do anything to fix their scenario. That's going to be complaining, and that is draining to friends, like your social life. Like, imagine it kind of feels like, an Eeyore or a little like cloud coming in every time. Like, I don't mind working things out with people, like, that's what my job is, but I also can't keep having the same conversation with no movement forward. So performance to me is like, you just are looking like you're doing the part, you're doing all the actions, but then when it actually comes to you solving your own problem, there's no action for it. So it just becomes a performance.
Well, it's like finding a substitute for your energy. And I have a little analogy that I love for this, because the reality is, receiving our energy, we need to regenerate our energy. And if our cup is low, we've got to get energy somewhere.
Yes.
That's the reality to survive. It's like a drowning person. You're going to cling to what you need to. And if you don't have a way to recharge your energy, you're going to seek for it externally in these outside places. So it's like, imagine, this faucet. So imagine that you're in a bathtub and you have this water flowing into your bathtub. Well, only you are in your bathtub, right? Well, let's say that you go through a situation where, somebody says something, you start to believe something negative about you. It's like dropping a bug in this bathtub, that it's no longer clear, and you're carrying this belief, right? This wound, and then that's when somebody says something that's similar to that, resonance, right? If we're talking about resonance, it's going to start stirring up the water, and that bug's going to start to bite you. Well, our tendency is, instead of looking at that what we are feeling, we are reacting to what is inside of us. It's this external looking at what is making me feel that way.
Yes.
Right? And then we become accustomed to, because if somebody else takes responsibility for that, even though it's in our bathtub and what's in theirs is in their bathtub, if they're taking responsibility, it's like calming the waters, and then this is no longer applying, and we become accustomed to, oh, well, that makes me feel better, because they're literally taking the energy on from the situation, so we're not feeling it. That doesn't mean that it's gone away.
Ooh, this is what yes, you're hitting on this, like social energy absorption. Right? And women tend to do this a lot. We absorb a lot of the extra energy in social situations. Just throwing that out there,
Right.
And so we tend to be really, because we're nurturing. We want to hold your emotions.
Yeah.
But how draining is that if someone's never gaining the muscle memory to be able to solve their own problems by themselves?
Well, literally, if we're not connected to ourselves to refill our own bathtub, which we connect internally, we do this when we connect to ourselves. Because if you're not in your body, connected to your body, how are you really gonna take on energy and refill yourself, right? It's like you have to believe it. If someone gives you a compliment and you don't receive it, you're not getting anything out of it.
It's just
you have to be open and connected to be able to flow it. So imagine you have this drain and you're giving all this energy away, but you don't have more water coming in, you don't have more energy coming in, you're absolutely going to be drained. And so what happens is we start substituting and pulling from each other instead of going right to the source in an authentic way. And that's part of the performance, is I'm going to do what it takes here to try to get this energy, but it doesn't fulfill it, and then it's draining the other person. That we have to be connected in our authenticity to be able to recharge our energy, and how that's going to feel good to other people. If you're connected to your energy and you're around someone else, they're not a substitute for it, and that is the safer that you feel, the safer someone else, because on a subconscious level we can feel whether or not, right, whether something's off, whether something's authentic, where there's something where that's even available, and that's where we can share things. But if we are still connected in this truth and authenticity, then if you have it continuously, something is always refilling it, your cup's going to continue to be full. If we still have the ability to fill, then if things are moving out, things are still moving in.
Well, imagine if you're always trying to problem solve. I mean, you're not problem solving for yourself. You're always going to your friend and you're talking about problems with your boyfriend, or vice versa, problems with your girlfriend. You're going to the same friend. That friend is going to be drained after a certain while. They're not going to be giving you deep advice. They're going to be checking out, and I think that that's something to really keep in mind, how you're showing up in your social dynamics, especially if maybe you have trouble keeping friends over a long period of time. Maybe it's you know, it's worth checking in on yourself. Like, how am I showing up to these friendships? Because am I just a taker? Am I just like siphoning people's energy to make me feel whole? Or do I know how to cultivate and create my own energy internally so that I'm not just like because if you're always taking other people's energy and you're never actually learning how to problem solve for yourself, that means that you're going to constantly be in a state of uncertainty, fear, survival, because you haven't developed the skill sets to be able to get yourself into an emotional like state that is balanced.
Well, and what's deceptive is in the moment it feels okay,
Yeah.
right? Like
The dopamine hits too.
they might feel drained, but you feel better because now they've taken on that energy and it's calmed your waters. You're not feeling anything triggering, anything biting you, but it doesn't make it go away.
Yeah.
Just like you're saying, the only way that you can really make that go away is to take a look at it for yourself, problem solve, own it, and then you can shift the behavior, and then now your water's clear. And what that means is there's fewer blocks within our energy field. The energy doesn't have to move around these blocks and bypass. It takes a lot of energy to find a new pathway. When we have a clear, open energy field, it's going to be more efficient. So it's like having cleaner water in your bathtub. Your message that you're sending out into the world, that you're exchanging, is going to, like what I see in you, your message is so clear. It feels so pure that I can understand what you're saying, and I'm not picking up on all of these interferences, all these emotions or intentions, like you were talking about with performance. When you're sharing something with somebody because you want a response, that's how we take energy. Because think, well, how do we know when we're taking someone's energy? How when we do that? Well, it's if you're sharing something to get a response and an outcome. I want to get something back from this, and I'm not just sharing this because we're in flow.
Yeah.
This is what I'm sharing.
In conversations alone, half the time, do you notice if you go and you talk to people and like really they're just saying hi to you just so that they can get out of their mouth what they actually just want to talk about, and like maybe they haven't asked you one question about yourself, and then but later at the end of the conversation they're like, you know what, that was we had a great time, didn't we? I feel really connected to you, and you're like, you don't know anything about me, but you felt good because I was able to hold space for you and connect with you. But that's and I bet you that person might think that they are self-aware, right? But they are not registering that it's a two-way street. It's not only how you are perceiving that person, it's that person now I know has no connection to how others are perceiving them because they couldn't even tell that they didn't ask one question about me.
Right.
And it happens a lot, folks.
Because they're focused on, the performance. They're focused on the outcome.
Or how they look.
Instead of that's the difference with authenticity, is it's flowing because that's just what is. Where if you're really present, I love that you said that, because I think that's what being present authenticity is. You're not thinking ahead of what am I getting back
and what am I going to say next.
That it's just this is where we're at in the moment, and you're constantly adapting to that, and it feels good. I mean, that's really vulnerability. If you're trying to be vulnerable to show that you're being vulnerable, that's still a longing and a seeking
and a performance,
and that's your energy going outside of you, right?
Let's talk about self-worth right now. Self-worth and how that shows up in social interactions, right? So like from like a mental health place, like if you aren't confident, like when you walk into a room. So mind you, you can walk into any room however you want to walk into that room. It's your choice, right? So like it's not, I think we said this in emotional wellness, right? It's not like you go into the room and then the room is going to dictate how you feel. It's like, no, I'm going to be showing up as a little bundle of joy, and so that's how it's going to be, right?
I'm going to be the tuning of fork
that
they resonate with.
Yes. And there is something, and I will say there is something to confidence in how people perceive you. I mean, I can just tell that within public speaking. One of my biggest icks when I'm watching someone publicly speak is when they admit their mistakes, because we don't know. Right? And so, it's the confidence of how you're showing up is going to dictate how people receive you, and so, go ahead.
Yeah, that we're not, like we were saying before, we're not just communicating with our words, we're
Mhm.
also sending it with the message, with the emotions we're feeling at the time. They're going in together.
Yeah.
So if we're saying one thing and we're feeling something else, think how confusing that message is going to be when it's received and has to be processed.
How do they even trust you? Because if you're saying one thing but your actions are doing another, well then you, like, how am I supposed to trust that you are coming with, like, in this conversation authentically? Like, am I wasting time? Am I going to be duped later on? Like,
Right.
yeah.
Absolutely. And so, well, coming back to that question of, as you walk in a room, like asking, how do I want them to feel when I'm communicating them? And then this is where the piece comes in. Is so often we think of, like, how are they going to make me feel, instead of how can I, what do I need to do so that they are feeling that way. So if I want someone to see me as confident, then I need to be feeling confident.
Yeah.
Because that's what creates the resonance that comes back to us. That's what we're magnetizing. We are going to magnetize in exactly what we're vibrating and what
that's
we're
the
believing,
thing. Yeah.
and creating those situations. What we talked about with emotions, and so it starts in here. If I want people to feel good around me, then I've got to feel good
Yeah.
around me.
And so, like, okay, so let's do what I'm going to say now is for all those people that maybe are socially awkward, maybe those people that, like, I don't know, you get into a group situation and you, like, don't know what to talk about. You're like, oh my God, this person's walking up to me and I'm about to freak out because I don't even know what to talk about. Here are some tips from an extroverted person. Okay, so so observational. Observational is a great place to start, right? You don't know what to say to that person. What color shirt are they wearing? Hey, is purple your favorite color? I don't know. And then and who knows if that even hits something, but then they might say, no, it's blue. Now you have a leeway. Like, maybe you see a painting on the wall and you go, hey, do you like that painting? And they can say no, and you go, why? Now I'll tell you this. I will tell you this right now. The better the question you to the other person, the less you will have to talk. So if you don't like talking in public and you don't like talking to a lot of people, I highly suggest you figure out some really good open-ended questions, open-ended versus closed-ended. Open-ended invites conversation, so it is not a yes or no answer. Like, if I ask you, do you like spaghetti? And you go, no. Well, you didn't really try to make a conversation with that because there was nowhere else to go, right? Where it's going, oh, hey, do you know the different types, the different shapes of pasta and where they come from? Like, have you ever been to Italy? Or, like, I don't know, where you can start pulling things out where it's more so like, tell me about your favorite pasta dish that you've ever had in this lifetime, right? Here we go, I finally got there. But that invites, like, a personal thing. I mean, you literally can do it with anything. And again, a lot of people don't necessarily like talking a lot in public, but then they don't ask questions. So you're leaving yourself open. But if you have, like, an arsenal of, like, 5 questions that you can just whip out in any social situation, like, if you're into food, a lot of people are into food. You can get people to talk about food, their pets. You can get just figure out, like, what are, like, things that most people are into. Create some questions around that, so that when you're in your social situations, you can ask the question and then conversation will come from it.
Yeah, what do you have in common? Because it really comes down to connection. And like you said, if people feel seen, so if we want to be seen, let's see others.
Yes. That's reciprocity. Do we all know what reciprocity is? Reciprocity is the relationship of giving and receiving. Giving and receiving is one mechanism. We might think of it as two, but they actually are one thing within the way the universe works. So that's why, like, if you are only taking, you're going to have to give eventually, and it might be actually taken from you if you're not voluntarily offering it. And that's when it can feel awkward, because you're like, why is this happening to me? And it's like, well, you're out of balance with give and take, and so the universe is going to correct that and take from you. Versus if you give first, then the universe will always want to match you in what you've given, and so therefore you'll start receiving things. And yeah, and so reciprocity is about like the exchange. Like, is it reciprocal? Like, if I ask you questions about you, are you asking questions about me? Because if it's not the give and take, it's going to become lopsided and it's going to become draining.
Right. I love this perspective that you're bringing into it, because it comes into this question of how do we connect to our energy source so that we can be the dominant field. And that's exactly it, this empowering perspective of we are actually in control of what we want to experience socially. Because
Yes.
every single one of us has the same needs, and we all desire connection. And connection comes down to that openness of energy. So the idea of be the change you want to see in
Yes.
the world, to recognize, okay, how do I want to feel? How can I help other people feel that way? To know that we can set ourselves up by first, connecting to ourselves in this authenticity of, okay, when I walk in the room, what is the experience that I want others to have? And we can visualize that, and we can give ourselves that energy, right? We can think about a time when you felt confident, and if you're already connecting to that kind of experience, and you're running that within your field, and you're breathing, and you're calm, and you're inviting that, that's what other people are going to feel around you. And it's just as Robin was saying, you're going to magnetize, because the universe is always responding to what we are already feeling,
Yeah.
what we
And
have
putting
already
out.
experienced, and what we're putting out. So how wonderful. And I have really noticed that the more that I'm expressing or treating other people the way that I want to feel, reciprocity, the more that comes back to you. And the things that you say to yourself,
Oh,
the things
yeah.
I want to feel socially. And I've had social anxiety.
Yeah, and I'm
Okay.
extroverted, and I have social anxiety sometimes. So it's not like there's a whole like group of human beings that are immune to it. No, you just got to push through it a little bit sometimes.
Yeah.
Because like connection is what gives you confidence too. Like
Right.
I notice having because I've created conversation circles, right? And the big thing about that is the thing that I see the most is self-esteem growth, and it's because people are witnessing you reflecting and then saying it out loud, and then people are into what you're saying. And so if you're never saying anything, you're never giving people a chance to connect with you, and so therefore you're never filling up your cup like, what I'm saying is valuable, what I'm saying is important, this perspective needs to be said.
Exactly. I love it. So before you go into a situation, connecting to yourself, hearing yourself. If we want to feel heard, let's start with hearing ourselves,
Yes.
validating ourselves, telling yourself exactly what you want to hear from other people and how you want to feel about yourself. Reiterate that so that you're tuning in and coming into resonance with the
Yes.
experience you already want to have. I'll visualize how I want to feel after my social interaction. How do I want the other person to feel? You're already connecting to that experience so that you're magnetizing it, drawing in. And
Yes.
then once you've already done the inner work and you're already connected in this way, then you get to walk into the situation and then you get to focus on them.
So,
You're already
yes.
vibrating the energy, then it's,
Yes.
I've already got this full in my field. This
Yes.
is in abundance. Now I can share this. Now I'm going to
Yeah.
hear you. I'm going to listen. I'm going to get to know
I'm going to
you.
be
and you're
present. Yes.
because you've already gotten what you need.
Well,
you don't need it from
yeah,
them.
so-
You're already feeling it.
Yes, yes, yes. So it's the social interaction really thrives when you aren't relying on someone else outside of you to make you feel whole yourself. Like, because that means if you were always relying on someone to give you a compliment in order to feel valid or to feel that you are worth it, you're going to be sad a lot. Because I tell you what, who's not going to be telling you the things that you want to hear? The world. And so, and that's some
energy's
real
temporary.
talk.
You're not able to regenerate it when it's not coming from you and that authentic source. You're just going to be recycling this energy that will not sustain you.
Yeah, it's not sustainable. I think that this is the main thing. It's not sustainable for long term. If you're noticing that people don't want to hang out with you, if you feel lonely, if you notice that it's probably how are you showing up? It's not about someone saying mean things to you. It's also well, how did we get here? Because many situations aren't isolated experiences. It's no, let's go back to the last 5 times we were in it. It's not like this isolated experience is why we're upset. It's actually multiple things that have got us to a point where this is how I'm reacting or this is how I'm saying it. And so it's just very important to really, again, the self-awareness, to really understand, how am I showing up? Like, am I mean mugging? Do I have like just like this sneer on my face because, like, and also, I think I firmly believe that anxiety is contagious. Because there's just something about if you're around someone and they're all of a sudden like having all these financial things, and then and it's like it just grabs you and brings you in.
Well, let's think about it. I mean, it's a high energy, isn't
Yeah.
it? But it's channeling through our sympathetic nervous system. It's channeling through this fear, right? I think of anxiety as a high energy form of fear. Well, being a
And
high
avoidance.
energy, we've talked about entrainment, it's going to be easier for people that aren't grounded and stable to come into resonance with that. That can become the dominant feeling.
Yes.
I think that's why it's so contagious,
Yes.
to where if we can calm and we can run ourselves in an empowered way, and that's really what this conversation is about. If we're disconnected and we're in victim mode, where we're dependent
Victim mode,
on
dependent.
others, we're dependent on our survival, and how quickly that feeling changes when we're connected to ourselves. We feel safer, we're empowered, we are in control because we're running this energy.
Yeah.
Then we create the dominant energy. Then how our calmness can
Yeah.
be what's contagious, and noticing when we start to pick that up on others, to recognize, I don't want to amplify this feeling, right?
Yeah.
Like, I've come into resonance with something that doesn't feel good.
Yeah.
What do we do about it then? When we know the source is coming to our own self-sourcing, our own sovereignty, then we can come back right into our body, and we can breathe and we can connect. And now, instead of being in resonance with someone else and amplifying what is happening, now we are generating our own energy, and then we can elevate, and we're actually going to be a better support than if we join them in that. And that's kind of going back to my metaphor of the bathtub water. We can't take those bugs out of their bath. We can't do that for other people.
And even if you try,
we're just calming the waters, which is just taking our energy. It's not really helping.
It's not helping. And I will tell you what, like, this is like when you're growing up and, maybe you had a parent, you could do anything you wanted, right? Or maybe you had that pretty privilege and people always did things for you all the time. So you actually never really learned those skill sets. And then, oh my God, you're like 38 and you're like trying to figure out how to pay a bill, but like you've never really had to before because other people have done it. This is also a reality check. It's like, how am I showing up? Like, am I able to be self-sustaining by myself? And not to say that that's like a sign of success, but it is a sign of the fact that you have the ability to look within yourself, balance yourself, know that whatever situation you're going through, you'll get through it. But if you constantly are like, I need to talk to my friend about it, I need to talk to this person about it, and like you're just like freaking out, and then you're not building any skills. You're temporarily
Substitute.
You're temporarily band-aiding it because now this person, and really what that person has done out of the kindness of their heart, they've probably absorbed. And can we also say, there's a lot of emotional processing and invisible emotional labor that goes on that I don't really think people are taking inventory
That's a really
of.
good point. Yeah.
Like if you
That's
always
a currency.
if you're always that friend that everybody comes to and like talks, like let's say you have that one friend who's like always talking, instead of going to a therapist, they're just coming to you and you're always giving them your energy, that takes effort. And for some reason in our society, it's not necessarily valued as high, but like you have to acknowledge that person
holding space.
Yes, that
is
takes
an
energy.
Yeah.
And
it's
it
an
like
energy.
and it literally takes and that takes that person out of their own thing and it forces them to be present with you. So if you are just like you've just bled them for like, let's just say 4 hours, and then the very next day you like call them and then you just want to keep it going, it's kind of selfish because it's like you're not aware of how draining you are on the other person, and then you're gonna have unhealthy relationships. You're gonna feel lonely. You're gonna be wondering why people don't want to spend time with you as much, and it's because you're not aware of how draining your behaviors are. Because 9 times out of 10, you're not self-sourcing. You're looking outside of yourself for someone to validate you and tell you that you're great. when, you need to start learning how to like believe your own self,
It comes at a cost, and I think the flip side of it, for us to stop feeling like that's love and that's how we take care of others, and that's the idea of people pleasing, why it doesn't serve us and it doesn't serve them, because it's not really helping, it's perpetuating this pattern, and it's taking our energy. That learning that a healthier way that we can support people isn't the performance, isn't necessarily giving someone what they want, calming their bathtub waters, making them feel comfortable in a moment, isn't as beneficial as staying in our own grounded space and creating an environment to where they can shift, they can process, they can move, and that requires us staying self-sourcing our energy. The difference between jumping into a pool with someone that's drowning and standing on the side, the banks, and extending the rope, the life preserver, and saying, here, you can come here. I'm here. I'm going to show you the way. And that has value.
Yes. What was I gonna say? There was something that you were saying that really was resonating with me. I can't remember
about the people pleasing.
Yeah. Well. Okay. So let's just talk about this. We'll go into this avenue. So I don't know if you all know, from a mental health perspective, there are things called negative thinking patterns that lead to anxiety. There's a ton of them. One is all or nothing thinking. Another one is catastrophizing. These are people pleasing in there. There's a lot of things in there that lead to anxiety. And I highly recommend maybe Googling that and starting there and taking an inventory of how many things you actually are doing that are negative thinking patterns that are keeping you in anxiety.
It's going to amplify the anxiety.
Yes.
Just feeds it, right?
Yeah, and that's, again, because rumination, you gotta change up the energy too, of if I'm ruminating and I'm stuck in my head, I know that I need to use my body, right? So that I know I go work out, I go take a bath, because your body keeps you in the present moment. So if you're submerged, then the water's touching you on all sides, so it kind of gets you out of your mind for a little bit.
It's a good point. It's like there's a charge, and our brain is always going to want, when there's a charge, is to feed the charge and focus on it and give it more attention. So you're talking about, how do we discharge this charge that's occurring to be able to shift it into something else, to break
alchemize,
the pattern,
if you will.
To alchemize it, exactly.
Yes. And that's what resilience really is, I think, too, is the alchemization. So the taking that energy, taking what that is, and just reconstructing it and turning it into something positive. I will tell you, much of my resilience is because I feel that pain, I acknowledge it, and then I'm like, I'm now going to do something positive with it, and then I turn it into something different that I can benefit from.
The energy is energy. And we talked about this in our emotional wellness last time, that if we look at emotions on a band of frequencies, you have a lower vibration, which it's vibrating lower, there's less movement. It's still, energy is energy, and emotions are energy. If you take that, you vibrate it faster, you've taken sadness and now you vibrate it into joy. That's energetic potential, and I love it to where nothing is lost, and where we really are supporting people, because as we're able to take a look at ourselves and connect to this energy, then we can shift it into an empowered way. And part of that is when we connect to ourselves, then anger becomes this empowered action that we get to move in the world. Anxiety becomes enthusiasm that we get to move into the world. Right? That it's shifting this circuit, and it all depends on whether we are disconnected, whether we're reliant out here, and that's the victim mode, or whether we're connected, and then we're in control of it.
So one thing that I definitely want to say, to go back, I remember what I was going to say before, and so I'm a social worker, right? And one of the things that I noticed is a phrase that everybody says is meeting people where they're at. Love that, right? But I'm going to give you a visual of what I was actually seeing as I was witnessing people say this, right? So let's imagine you have a client, you have, whoever it is that you're trying to help. You both get to the same room, right? Meeting someone where they're at, for many people, is just essentially, imagine that you're walking directly up to them and you're standing belly to belly and you're looking at them and you're like, hi, we just got here, how you doing? Okay, right? That's what that is. How I view meeting people where they're at is, okay, we just got to the same room, right? And I'm like, hey, why do you take 3 steps towards me? And they're like, absolutely not. And then you're like, okay, well, how about I take 2 steps and you take 1 step? And they're like, okay. and you take 2 and they take 1, and you're like, okay, now how about you take 1 more step and I'll just take 1 step. And they're like, okay, boop, boop. And then you're like, okay, well, do you want to take any more steps? They're like, no. And you're like, okay, I'll walk. And then you walk up. So what you did there now is you allowed space for growth, right? You're not enabling. I think that there is a very fine line between enabling and empowering, right?
Yes.
I feel like that visual is really like says it, right? Like enabling is walking right up to that person and just doing it for them, or just like keeping them where they're at. Whereas empowering is like, no, we're both in the same room and I'm going to match you. I might do a little bit more than you, but you're going to need to also come too. And I think that also builds so much self-esteem as well, because then people can see that they are capable of movement. You know,
Right.
if they're always enabled and they're always given what they need, then they don't know that they can do it by themselves. And so therefore you're just keeping them small. You're giving all your energy.
You're
Yeah.
making them comfortable, but
Yeah.
nothing's changing. They're
Exactly.
just in the same pattern. And so you're right. I mean, where we meet in a room is just to create connection,
Yes.
just to create resonance. And then once you're in training resonance, then you can go somewhere, then you can shift it.
Yes.
So that important part of where we don't dwell, that we can't ignore it either. We can't bypass it. We hear about spiritual bypassing. If you ignore it, it's not going to go away. If you calm it, if you look another direction, this is still in your space. Like if you push a bug away in a bathtub, it's just going to float around. It's going to come right back. So there's no avoidance in it. Yet when you're connecting, it requires picking it up and looking at it. So there's something powerful in holding space of, I see you and we're looking at this, but it's the person that's going to do the action, so that they're not relying upon you, because it is about empowerment and connection. And once they know they can grow, they can continue to grow.
Yeah.
If we're enabling, then they're always going to require you. There's always this level
They're
of
always going to need you.
dependency.
Yeah. And that's not healthy. It might feel good temporarily, but then it's going to be draining. And so, we're getting close to towards the end of our time, but these are all such good conversations. We've gone a lot of places, but you see how important it is in social situations to register your own energy, the other person's energy, being able to know what drains you, what fills you up, what else, how self-worth
Right.
affects how you show up in conversations.
And how we are in control, how empowering it is that we can decide what we want, and then to see how it changes our relationships. To say, do we want relationships that are based on our energy?
Yeah.
Or if we really do prioritize this, then we have the opportunity to elevate into really authentic relationships like
Yeah.
what we have that do fulfill us, that are based on resonance, connection,
Yeah.
truth,
Yeah.
fulfillment, from this foundation that we get to elevate even higher together.
Yeah, and really knowing what your inner critic is saying to you. Because if you're letting your inner critic dictate how you're showing up in rooms, you don't even really know if that person likes you or doesn't like you, because
Right.
you weren't being you. You were maybe being something that you think would be received well. So therefore you're not even getting real data back.
Well, that's the irony, because we're performing that way because you want to feel loved, you
Yeah.
want to be worthy, and then the ironic thing is that you're never going to get that because you're not giving them access and openness to connecting to the authentic part of you.
Yes.
So that could be received. And that's the tricky part, is that you have to exercise it first. You have to be open first
Yeah.
and allow the authenticity so that it can be reciprocated.
And let's just be real, right? Not everybody is going to like you. That is a good thing. I don't want everybody to like me. There are so many people in the world. I like it, And so this is and they shouldn't like you. There's just
Well, I love it. I think of everything in terms of sound healing and energy, right? And each of these bowls play beautiful sounds on their own, but certain chords, certain tones resonate together, and they'll create resonance, and others have dissonance.
Yes.
And when you look at it that way, is it's not personal.
Yes.
We're going to resonate. We're going to align with some people and not align with others. It doesn't mean that people are good or bad.
Yeah.
This is allowing us to with precision,
Yeah.
to prioritize our connections that are aligned
Yeah.
and beneficial, because we only have so much space, and then other people can connect where they're at too, and that feels so much more loving, because we don't need to. And
Yeah, perform.
yeah, we don't need to perform in an orchestra. You're not not going to play every scale,
Yeah.
every tone, every chord. You're going to play a symphony is made up of harmonics
Harmonics.
that work together.
So you want to know my analogy? I was thinking of it's like perfume. Like every time perfume smells different depending on the person because of like how that person smells or their body. So think about that with like relationships. It's going to be totally different dynamics with every mixture of partnership and friendship. That's why you can be best friends with someone and detest their other friend, but they like each other because that might be the combo that works, right?
And part of it's the energy of vibrational alignment when you have
Yeah.
something vibrating here and something vibrating here, and like we said, nature's trying to synchronize. That takes a lot of effort to try to bring these to a place where they can entrain and connect.
Yeah.
It's a lot of work, and it's not necessary that people can vibrate where they're vibrating, and that's okay to move on and outgrow situations. And then that, the idea of abundance of, okay, as I'm letting this go, I only have so much space. Now I have the space to energetically connect with those that don't require so much energy because there's more synchronicity, because there's more resonance.
Yes, energy leaks. Just like one of the last things, energy leaks. I really started determining, I think it was last year, how I determined whether or not I spent time with people. I did it on a very neutral base. It has nothing to do whether or not I love the person. It has nothing to do with like their character or anything like that. It purely was, I would take inventory as to, again, like how I felt after I left them. And if I constantly felt drained or there was no reciprocity, then I realized that that was actually an energetic leak. And sometimes it really isn't about like rejecting that person as who they are, but it is being in tune with yourself and going, hey, for right now, that person and I are not vibrating at the same level. And just like maybe not spending much time with them. So it allows them to also grow. Because I don't really feel like in this lifetime that it's ever like so cut and dry, like, oh, I'm never talking to you. It's like, who knows? Who I am now is not someone that I want to interact with you.
Are we vibrating together in this moment or not? And maybe it's as simple as just the universe kind of orchestrating this timeline and where our energy can be most beneficial because it has a place to flow. Like if you think about that, you have 10 containers or you have one container that is empty on the bottom. Do you want to pour all your energy in the same place when it's just
all your
going
eggs
out
in
the
that
bottom?
basket?
Or you could fill up 10 different cups that are in resonance and aligned and have this kind of impact.
Yes.
The thinking that is so loving to think we get to put our certain amount of energy that we have into places that could be the most beneficial, the most impactful, and that's okay to bring some precision into it.
Yeah, and finding your people, right? Find your people. I guarantee you, if you like something, there's probably someone else out there that also likes it. You might even know there's a whole community maybe that all get together all the time and you're just like over here feeling lonely, but are you like going out of your way to really like try to connect, like maybe understanding yourself and how you're showing up and being real. Like there's a difference between vulnerability and honesty, right? Vulnerability can just be like how you feel about a situation, but honesty is actually taking precision and really like looking at yourself and being like, okay, well, I don't want to feel this way anymore. But how am I showing up? Is it everybody is against me? Is the whole world against me? Or maybe could I do something in my own life to take responsibility and accountability for how I'm showing up in the world that maybe isn't vibrating with the people around me?
Yeah, if I want to be a match, then what can I do to be a vibrational match for what I want to experience?
Yeah, it's not everybody catering to you. It's you. The only thing that you can control in this lifetime is you. You can't just stop trying to control other people. And so like,
and if it's not good for us, it's not good for them either. When it's not aligned, there's dissonance on both ends. And so it is so loving to let things go so that people can put their energy into places that are more aligned for them too.
Yes.
And that you can too. I mean, things are always changing, things are always moving, and we come into discomfort and we suffer when we resist, when we attach, when we don't allow things to flow. I mean, nothing really feels better than just being in flow.
And whenever you see resistance, always, I mean, that's like a key for you to be able to take space and go, why am I fighting this? Like, is this fight worth it? Anytime you feel resistance, like, what am I fighting for right now? Like, does this, because life doesn't need to always be a fight for everything. And like, you got to examine it. If it's always resistance, always like you feeling like you're doing an uphill battle, maybe this is not the battle that you need to be putting your energy into.
It might not be personal, it could just be an energetic thing, and then you can redirect your energy, because the reality is we just have a certain amount of energy, we have a certain amount of time, and how loving to support ourselves flowing in the way that is most aligned for us at that time. That if we let go and we allow, we're not going to feel the same level of suffering.
Yes.
Right? We can experience more peace, and to give other people the permission to do that too.
Yes.
That's a gift.
So this is just so much wisdom. So last question, relatively short, right? So just short answer. What do you wish people understood more about energy in social situations?
That it really starts with us, the self-sourcing, we fill up our own cup, and that's always going to feel better to go straight to our own source of connection than to receive it from someone else.
Booms.
That's where we have control.
Yeah, and I would say, what do I wish people understood about energy in social situations? That it's always an energy exchange, whether or not you register it or not. And there's residue. Either it's positive and it gives you energy, or it drains you. But just understanding that there's a fingerprint. There's like some sort of imprint that's happening with interaction. So picking the people that you choose to spend time and give energy to, it does matter in how you feel about yourself and how you present yourself within the world.
Love it. Yeah.
Boom.
Fill up your own cup, and you're going to be better prepared to interact with the world.
You can take on the world.
That it will receive you too. The better you feel, the better other people are going to feel.
Because it's a vibe. You ever walk into a room and people, like, you just see it and you're like, oh, we're going to be friends. You haven't even said anything and you're going to be friends. And there's other times you walk into the room and you're like, I don't know anything about that person, but I want to be on the opposite side of the room. It's all about that vibe, man.
Yeah. Open we are, then we can connect.
Yes.
That's great.
All right, so thanks for tuning into Cerebral Sparkles.
Thank you. We'll see you next time.
Yeah, if something resonated with you today, whether it was about reciprocity, self-worth, or energy awareness, we hope it sparked a little clarity and connection. So be sure to like, subscribe, and share with someone who needs a social energy reset. Until next time, stay grounded, stay glowing, and keep your sparkle sacred.
Love it.
Bye!